This is a save frog. They're scattered all around the world in Mother 3, and as you might guess, they save your game. The cool thing is, most save frogs aren't more than 5 minutes apart, so if you want to play this 8-chapter RPG in 8-minute play sessions, you totally can. And because the Mother games are packed with so much detail and little things to enjoy, it's kind of worth it to play this way. So that's what I'm doing. Playing Mother 3 step by step, frog by frog, and writing about everything I experience along the way. So, without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Mother 3 is full of a lot of amazing moments. Some of them come about in battle, some of them come about through dialogue, some of them reside in the game's humor or the game's incredible soundtrack. But what if I told you there was one moment, one cutscene, that reigned supreme above all others? And what if I told you it involved not Lucas, not Klaus, not Duster or Kumatora, not even Flint, but a humble little dog just trying to save the day? That's right, folks. My boy had a chance to shine today. Boney was the hero. So yes, I am very excited to talk about his cutscene today. I had an amazing session of gameplay overall, actually. I would say I'm in relatively high spirits today. 45 minutes of Mother 3 is all well and good until you find yourself working on one video for over a year. Let's give a little shout out to Lucas, who actually edits these videos. Thank you so much. It's nice to have a little less to write about, to pick from a limited selection of events. But at the same time, I'm going to be writing about one of my favorite moments in the entire game today. So, I don't know, we might be headed toward excess once again. And I know, I love so many moments in Mother 3, and I'm always saying that this or that is my favorite, or that I love X or Y, but today's events really are some of my favorite in the whole game. I can still remember how I felt the first time I ever played this section of Mother 3. It has stuck with me all these years later. And of course, my favorite moment involves the world's best dog, Boney. Well, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, so before I get into talking about this incredible cutscene and why I think it's one of Mother 3's crowning achievements, if not one of the Game Boy Advance's crowning visual achievements, we need to set the stage. So let's take things back for a second and reorient ourselves with where we are in the frog-by-frog journey. While Leiter and Isaac deal with the debris, Flint and Boney decide to check out the cliffside, where there's more than one instance of bad news. Bateau and Jonelle look upon a gruesome sight. Claw marks, chunks of mountain missing entirely. Bateau says he's got a bad feeling about everything, but he quickly eats his words. A Tasmanian acknowledging a situation as bad? Well, not yet, or at least not in front of Flint. I like Bateau's and Jonelle's reactions here, because there's a mix of disbelief and increasingly willful ignorance. What I mean is, every sign points towards the Dragos no longer being peaceful, but to Tasmanians, that's impossible to believe, at least for now. Chapter 1 consistently builds tension while giving the player small bits of hope. We ask ourselves, okay, what if the Tasmanians are right? What if the Dragos aren't so dangerous? What if this debris is from the Dragos saving Hinawa and the kids, defending them from the Pigmask army? We don't know anything yet. It's always that balance of tragedy and levity in Chapter 1. On the other hand, I think some Tasmanians, like Bateau, start to see the situation for what it is. Bad and getting worse, but no one says anything too loud around Flint. Still, I have to say, I like that Bateau shows up in yet another small scene/section of the game. I know that might seem like a weird point to emphasize, but Bateau isn't major to the story and does, honestly, not very much notable throughout the entire game. Jonelle, a character we have already met, who is a decently established minor character, could have been the only person over here. But Itoi decided to let another NPC have a small piece of the spotlight, and I like that. Bateau adds some much-needed comic relief when he's paired with the more serious, uptight Jonelle. To me, it shows that Itoi has found small ways to use almost every character in the story. It's also nice to balance out Jonelle with the lighter Bateau. It's like all the Tasmanians are actors in the Mother 3 stage play, and Itoi wants to make sure that everyone gets at least a couple lines. I also want to add here that the sprite work of the claw marks and the missing chunks of mountain are some of my favorite visuals in all of Chapter 1. I feel like I often point out that I like the sprite design in enemies or in character designs, but sometimes just the environments of Mother 3 really blow me away. This is probably because I grew up with the Game Boy Advance and I have a lot of nostalgia for its visuals, but I can't help but feel really impressed and really inspired when I see a cool visual spectacle pulled off on such a simple system. I mean, there's a lot that I love about Mother 3's visual design, a lot of simple decisions that I think go a really long way, like with the Sunshine Forest fire and just how that scene is put together visually versus the more cooler toned aftermath of the fire. A lot of the stuff is very, very simple sprite work. I'm not trying to say that the Mother 3 team reinvented the wheel. I just think there's a lot to love here, and I just love looking at this world that Atoy and his team have created. Anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch, Boney catches a whiff of something, and with the best barking sound effect that the Game Boy Advance could buy, Boney draws everyone's attention up to a small leafless tree at the top of the cliffside. A small piece of cloth blows in the wind, the same color as Hinawa's dress. This is a moment that really punches you in the gut. The goal immediately changes from maybe we'll find Hinawa and the kids to hopefully we still have time to save Hinawa and the kids. Bateau's bad vibe turns out to be true. I also love the absence of music in this scene. Once again, all we hear is pouring rain. The last time there was no music, Isaac had just told Flint about spotting Hinawa and the kids up in the mountains right before hearing the roars of a Drago. In these moments of silence, both Flint and the player have to let their imaginations fill in the blanks, and the blanks grow exceedingly worse. Tension builds, becoming almost tangible in these long, drawn-out seconds. I feel like every time we pause and just listen to the rain, the weights on Flint's shoulders just become heavier and heavier. But as usual, Mother 3 offers levity. Wes appears from off-screen, and even though Jonelle tells him that he's too old to be able to help, Wes ignores him because this old man has a plan. Wes suggests that they call upon his son, who has been trained in the thief arts. Perhaps his son has some kind of skill that could help out Flint and the rest of the town. But who is this guy? Well, in the same way that the player names Lucas and his family members, a naming screen comes up for this new character as well, showing us that he's going to be important to the story. This sleeping thief is none other than Duster, one of the main characters and main party members of the whole game. There's a lot to say about Duster, but I think I'm gonna wait until next week when we actually get to see him in combat, or even until Chapter 2, where he is the focal character. I do love, though, how our real introduction to Duster is through his sock, which Wes uses to give Boney Duster's scent. And boy does it smell ripe. Duster and Wes are so awesome. They're both a little off, just in different ways. With Wes, there's always the slight chance that he's going to surprise you with an outburst or a weird old thief technique, and with Duster, there's always the slight stench of his bad breath. I really like the idea of giving characters qualities that might not initially seem attractive. I feel like so many RPGs are either built around custom characters, where the player's whims are fully realized, or around obviously attractive or traditionally capable protagonists. There's nothing wrong with this, of course, but it's nice to have a hero like Duster in the mix. He smells kinda weird, he walks with a limp, but he's still a hero, and he's a thief. If you think of other famous thieves in RPG history, you probably think of someone like Locke from Final Fantasy VI. A cool guy with cool hair with this romantic, tragic backstory. Well, Duster is also a thief, and just because he doesn't necessarily look as slick or as cool as someone like Locke, he still has a great backstory and a lot of amazing things to offer the story of Mother 3. Speaking of thieves though, why does Tazmily even need thieves? Definitely something to think about. Actually, along that same line of thinking, I guess we haven't talked much yet about how Flint is both a traditional, stereotypical silent hero, as well as a traditional Western image of a cowboy, and I guess really a Hollywood image of a cowboy at that. He sort of has two popular traits of what makes up many heroes. I feel like Flint has two tropes sort of working in tandem to make his character work, at least in Chapter 1. You have that, common trope of a silent hero within an RPG, but you also have the popular image of the cowboy. So both of these things, in my opinion anyway, sort of emphasize one another and even manage to comment on masculinity. But we'll talk more about the whole masculine angle very, very soon. Probably not in this episode, but very, very, very soon. I always thought his name was Flint to recall Clint Eastwood, but Tomato says his name comes from the term flintlock, referring to firearms that use a flint striking mechanism to fire. One of my favorite things about Chapter 1 is how Flint, the more traditional heroic image, becomes surrounded by all of these traditionally non-heroic characters. There's Thomas, the overeager, worrisome town watchman, Fuel, a child, Duster, the smelly, sleepy thief, and another party member we haven't met yet. To me, it's another mix of seriousness and humor. You have this stern cowboy out to find his wife and kids, who has teamed up with his adorable dog and a strange man with bad breath. I'm sure I'll have more to say about Flint later. I'm still kind of saving my full analysis of him for later in this chapter, so hold your breath, but, well, maybe don't hold your breath because these videos take a long time to make. But anyway, to get back to the action, then Wes ties a ribbon to Boney, telling him to hunt down Duster and bring him back here. The thief will know exactly what the ribbon means. More important than the ribbon itself is how cute Boney looks with it on. Just look at him. I always find it funny how when you see a lot of Mother 3 fan art, it almost always depicts Boney wearing this ribbon, but he actually only wears it during this very brief part of the game. He never has it on ever again. And so that's the setup, with one path blocked by trees, and with nowhere else to go but up, and with Hanawa's cloth hanging high above, someone needs to scale the cliffside, and hopefully Duster is the guy to do it. Just hours ago, Flint came to the rescue when everyone else fell to the fire and its evil associates. Now, it's Tasmalee's turn to take care of Flint. And with a simple woof woof, which of course means you can count on me, Boney is off. Okay, now let's talk about this cutscene. To get things started, I love the accompanying track, Run My Dog Run. The track itself is set perfectly to the cutscene. It feels sweeping, heroic, and triumphant, yet never too serious. There's almost a lighthearted, whimsical heroism to the track that characterizes Boney so well. He's such a loyal dog. He's such a good boy. There's something simple, effective, yet incredibly moving for me as a player every time I watch this scene. To me, Boney's run through the storm is a great portrayal of Tasmalee pulling out all the stops. The town hasn't given up yet, and Boney's fetch mission is the harbinger of hope. I love how the song starts off a little bit forlorn. You really have this sense of Boney running alone through the forest. Lightning cracks in the distance, and you actually worry about his safety. But the more that Boney runs, the more that the song escalates and starts to feel more hopeful and heroic. Again, I think this is Boney's success and Tasmalee's success. This shows that when Tasmalee gets together toward a common goal, there's really so much that they can accomplish together. I love the little scene of Boney running into town square, seemingly getting directions from the children. There's just so many things about this scene that work and just feel so fun and so real, and I'll always remember my reaction to seeing this for the first time. I was just blown away. I was already invested in the story of Mother 3, and I think Chapter 1 is often remembered for its more, how can I say, spoilerific moments, those sort of big moments that are coming just around the corner. But to me, Boney's run through the forest is just as iconic for the story of Mother 3. I think it's a great introduction to his character. I think it's a great way to show how brave Boney is, compared to, no offense, compared to King from Earthbound. Boney is just so much more active and so much more brave, and I really love that. I think I've said this a couple times now, but I love how in Chapter 1, multiple characters get to be the hero. Again, even though we have Flint, who is this very stereotypical image of what a hero looks like, a lot of different characters, a lot of different parts of Tasmally get to step up and get to have these heroic moments. To me, Boney's fetching scene shows that everyone still has a little fight left in them. Maybe the knight is young enough to save Hanawa and the boys, who, don't forget, are Boney's family members too. This isn't just Boney running on behalf of Flint. This is Boney doing his part to save the family, to save two little boys who he has grown up with. I also love the sprite animation here, with Boney running and the lightning cracking in the distance, and then the rain falling all around, and the parts of the forest sweeping by as Boney runs through them, leading us to Duster sleeping in his house. I just love all the animation. I guess this scene stands out to me so much because there's only so many ways that you can characterize a dog, and Boney, like Duster, does become one of the main party members of the entire game. So it's important for the player to connect with him. To me, this scene gives us everything we need to know about Boney. He drags Duster back through the forest even when he won't wake up. I mean, that has to be one of the cutest images in the entire game is Boney dragging Duster through the forest. I will never not love that moment. If this does not make you smile, I don't know what will. Even though Boney's barks are translated for us, he'll obviously never get to actually speak, but he still gets this standout moment, and I just think that's so important. This scene, paired with the fact that Duster, Boney, and Flint become our next temporary party configuration, is a perfect example of some ideas I looked at last time. To spare you going back and watching the whole previous video, I'll just say that Itoi wanted the original Mother game to feel like a cinematic experience. He wanted party members to come and go in the story to aid in the drama. In a time when many developers were starting to focus on the simple quantity of how many party members or characters they could add into a game, Itoi wanted to see what he could do with the party members he had from a story perspective. I think Mother 3 shows us Itoi's fully realized idea 30 years later, and if not fully realized, then at least a version of that idea. Notice how, at an incredibly tense point of the story, 2 additional party members join you, both of which have significant cinematic moments. Duster's is coming up in a second. Itoi knows that the best way for a player to bond with a story's characters is for the player to see the characters overcoming obstacles together. For some reason, I always think of that scene from Star Wars where Luke, Leia, Han, and Chewbacca fend off stormtroopers together before escaping into the trash compactor. They're talking to each other while actively trying to solve a problem. There's all this banter and all this action, and there's actually stakes on the screen, so the characters are bonding and we're bonding with them. We like to see heroes overcoming things together, and that's why I love that scene of, Boney pulling Duster through the forest. Even though Boney can't speak, this is us seeing Duster and Boney within a conflict together for the first time. And again, it's just so cool to me how some of Itoi's original aims in the series came to fruition in his third and final game. It feels so special to see how an artist can originally conceptualize something and for that idea to have stuck with them over time. In this next quote I'm going to share with you, we can see how in the original Mother, Itoi's ideas of how to make a game feel cinematic were different than the approaches we see in Mother 3. But it was because games had so many restrictions that I could reclaim the essence of storytelling that was already lost in novels. Okay, in games, you get surrounded by enemies and have to solve puzzles and such. You don't need any kind of explanation because you first-handedly get excited or angry or whatever. We're so glad we can do that. It's an aspect unique to games. It allows us to intimately experience the emotions of the main character. When I say Mother is an RPG that draws you in even more than a book or movie, that's what I mean. Obviously, the Mother series with Mother 3 eventually became cinematic in its storytelling as well as its gameplay scenarios, but quotes like this are why I try to pay as much attention as I can to what Itoi might be trying to say about characters through gameplay. Yes, Itoi had cinematic aims for Earthbound 64, and yes, Itoi achieves cinematic moments in Mother 3. But these aren't the only places where emotion can be expressed, or where emotions can be felt. Honestly, some of the best examples of this are seen in Chapter 3, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. When I think of Itoi achieving drama through characters coming and going, I often think of the original Mother game, where characters like Lloyd, leave your party and come back later, or characters like Teddy join your party only to have a full character arc occur on screen. This is why I think it's a good thing that Mother 3 dances around party members so much, adding in one for a few minutes and taking them away, and adding in another one for a short sequence and taking them away, all of it centered around Flint. Flint ends up becoming this conduit for other characters' stories, and I think it adds so much to the drama. And even Flint himself is an especially interesting character to look at. Story-wise, he's probably starting to worry, if not outright lose hope. And as each sign gets worse, we are confronted with gameplay scenarios that appear increasingly grim. A forest fire, then a thunderstorm, then the fire's desolate wake, then the ghostly top of a cliffside. This could just be me, but this cliffside looks like the life and color is getting sucked out of everything. And I know the word ghostly might be a bit of a stretch, but when the track Somewhere Someday kicks in later, you'll know exactly what I mean. Things aren't looking good. It's like every enemy we fight is another second we're wasting, which is also why I love that there's a boss fight waiting for us just on top of the cliff. And I don't know, maybe I'm reaching again, but I really do appreciate Flint as the focal character of an anxiety-ridden, all-around hopeless chapter. His brute strength is a perfect storytelling device, showing us that whatever we're up against is going to require more than pure force to defeat, maybe even more than something in the physical world. Something wicked is afoot, it grows stranger by the second, and it's bigger than tiny little Tasmily. You can't smack destiny with a 2x4. Oh, Flint. It probably is time for me to talk more about him, but maybe next time. For now, I want to bring things back around to my favorite little pup. I don't want to get too far away from the Boney fan club proceedings. So if you've been following my blog for a bit, you know that I named Boney after my own dog, Cole, who passed away about a year before starting this blog. I know I said I would strive to refer to Boney as Boney whenever mentioning the character, so you might wonder why I keep bringing up all the time that his name is Cole. All I can say is, it feels right to me. This post and this cutscene honors Boney, the loyal dog, a character I already enjoy without the association to my own dog. But because I've projected Cole onto the character of Boney for so many years, if this video honors Boney, then it also honors Cole. So I can't help but think of him. I'll always remember that Cole was not the best dog for fetching, unlike Boney. Cole liked to chase a ball and track it down, but he'd never bring it back, and he would instead just take it off into his own area and enjoy it as his own toy. One game Cole really loved, though, even in his old age, was getting chased around. He loved to run. We could chase him around the room, or around our whole house, around the backyard, just anywhere, and he would light up like a firecracker. So yes, Boney fetches Duster and actually brings him back, and I love Boney for that. But Itoi has encouraged me to name Boney after Cole, and Cole would have never brought Duster back. He would have wanted to play a little longer, I think. Boney might be the dog who saves the day, but Cole was the dog who loves to play. Honestly, I bet I would have eventually started naming Boney after Cole at some point in my life. It seems like something I could do without prompting, and I'm sure many players feel the same, but I don't know. It's also a cool feeling to know that this sort of connection, this sort of experience, is what Itoi strove to create with the Mother games. I'm having one of those moments where the Mother series really does feel strangely parental. But we've got to stay on track here. Mother 3 really never lets up in Chapter 1. It's such a roller coaster of ups and downs. The last thing I'll say about this cutscene is, it feels like one of the last times Mother 3 has any real sense of hope for a pretty long time. The uplifting track, with Boney's sprint there and back again, this little dog staves off more than just bolts of lightning. For a second, he outruns the pitch blackness, the hopelessness of it all. The wall stapler. Well, all that heroism doesn't mean anything if Boney doesn't actually bring back something good. But there's nothing to worry about there. Boney has brought with him one of the most unique party members in the entire Mother series, even if he may not look like it at first. When Duster finally wakes up, he runs behind Boney, following him to the gathering at the cliffside. Duster, notably, runs and walks with a limp, and like we will see in combat, he attacks by kicking. One thing I really appreciate about Itoi's vision for Duster is that the nature of Duster's leg and the nature of his attacks is left up to the imagination of the player. So often, portrayals of characters' physical ability are related to limitations, instead of being seen as unique and valuable differences to what society views as a normal body. In Itoi's own words, from the robust Nintendo Dream interview, you can speculate whatever you like about it. For example, some people might think that there is a metal rod inside Duster's leg. Others might guess that it's stretched out because it's normally not very useful. I leave it entirely up to your imagination. I could see a counter-argument to this though. Itoi could have given Duster a more easily recognizable or more specifically explained condition as a way to show that a non-imaginative injury can still be a part of a character who is capable of many things. I think that is a totally valid way to view Itoi's portrayal of Duster. However, like I said, I appreciate Itoi's idea because it allows a wide range of players to both connect with Duster in a unique way and to imagine what kind of character he is in their own way. I would never intend or try to say that I have a definitive view on portrayals of ability, so I would be interested to hear everyone's thoughts on this as well. We had a really great conversation in my last video about Reggie's portrayal and how that relates to representation, so I would love to hear everyone's thoughts on Duster's portrayal and how that relates to representation as well. Itoi talks about representation even more when we get into the Mad Gypsies, but part of his quote does relate to Duster as a character, so I'll include that here. I figure that because there are handicapped people in our world, it would also be part of the world of Mother 3. After all, there's no way that any two people have the same physique or even the same personality. I included Duster so we could have someone with bad breath, a disabled leg, and living as a thief. The Mother 3 world is all about having friends like them. Perhaps you could call them symbols of not rejecting such people. Like I said, I'll wait to talk about Duster at length until Chapter 2, where he is the focal character, but I love how Itoi's intentions for the character show up in this game. You wouldn't expect it at first, but Duster has been trained in the thief arts. Specifically, Wes calls upon Duster to use the wall staple technique, which allows him to scale walls with relative ease. Duster doesn't initially seem too confident in his ability to use the technique, which introduces the relationship between Wes and Duster. Wes is direct, aggressive, and determined, if not a bit outright rude and emotionally tone-deaf. Duster is brave but passive. He's a little bit reserved but still level-headed. Like Itoi said, he's a thief with bad breath who lives with his dad. He's a bit of an oddball. Sometimes I think I overlook Duster's arc in Mother 3. His quiet uncertainty before performing the technique says a lot about him. He's a man with extraordinary abilities that nobody in Tazmily can match, except for maybe his father. But he's never really had the chance to use them, to come into his own. I love Duster's animation for using the wall staples. He spins in this quick little circle, then brandishes two huge staples, which he uses to climb the wall, leaving a ladder of them behind him. The wall staples can also be used as part of Duster's special ability, Thief Arts, and they are the only of Duster's tools we get to see used outside of battle. Again, I'm not trying to talk about Duster too much yet, so I might drop this point for now, but I'll come back to it later. This is still the Flint and Boney show, at least for a little while. But when you think about the wall staples as a technique, there's really so much to love about them. As soon as you see them, you think, of course, why not? Why not climb a wall with staples? It makes so much sense in that playful, childlike Mother series way. The wall staples are a lot like Earthbound's octopus/pencil eraser, which, of course, erases an octopus or a pencil. Another invention by the Apple Kid, zombie tape, traps zombies so they can't terrorize the city of Threed anymore. I love these straightforward inventions that we get to see throughout the Mother series, and I think that the Thief Arts are a fun little continuation of that legacy. Honestly, I think we need to appoint Itoi as like the lead of some sort of innovative think tank so that he can make us some more practical technology. I can only imagine that the man who thought up the wall staples has much more to offer the world. Anyway, even though watching Duster use the wall staples is quite a treat, The view at the top of the cliff isn't great. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy to have Duster around, and it's nice to see a frog just chilling up here, but like I said earlier, doesn't it look ghostly up here? It's like the closer we get to the truth, the closer we get to the enemy, the more deathly the environment starts to look. But we all know what's coming next. The scrap of cloth on the tree. 1 inch at a time, Flint's greatest fear comes true. We don't know what happened to Hanawa and the kids, but we know at this point that it wasn't good. When you do approach Hanawa's cloth and pick it up, the game plays the most depressing chime I've ever heard. It's like it's trying to be excited in the way it usually sounds when you pick up a new item, but it just doesn't have the heart because it knows that what's been found is bad. And that's about where this frog leaves us. Even though Boney and Duster brought moments of hope and triumph, the outlook itself isn't great. Every second spent looking could mean the difference between life and death. Tazmily is coming together in some really great ways, but time is still running out. It's a good thing we stopped in that sanctuary and prayed, because things are about to get pretty real. But there is still hope. We have an amazing party of Flint, Duster, and Boney. When I look at these three, I see the unlikely heroes of the night. When I look at these three, I think there's still a chance that everything is going to be okay.